Yep. It's technical difficulties all around. How's it going, everybody? I'm like almost shaking, and you guys are going to be laughing at me, but I love these two people so much, like in what they do. Fyrebride and Fyrebride, introduce yourselves.
What's up? It's Josiah, aka Firebrand. I do God-fearing industrial metal, and I'm really excited to be on the podcast here.
Hi, I am Lauren. I am Fyrebride. I am the wife to this wonderful, lovely, godly man. And I run a food podcast, which is Tableside with Fyrebride. And I'm very thrilled and honored to be on this show with you.
Well, thank you. I enjoy your podcast. I've already got 2 episodes in. And you just posted one today, correct?
Yes, I did. I post the first Friday of every month.
Okay, thank you. Now I got to catch up even more. Very good. So before we go into the depth of the interview, let's first talk about Fyrebrand, your new single, Drag Me Down. I love it. Tell me a little bit about it.
So the way that my songs usually take shape is I don't usually sit down and say, okay, I'm going to make this type of song. And if I didn't know any better, the way that I would describe it is that the songs kind of decide what they want to be as I work on it. I go from a riff or a synth line or something like that as a starting point and then flesh out the song from there. And as the song was developing, just like so many others, a lyrical topic that was relevant at the time, but also something that fit along with the theme that seemed to be making itself apparent with this collection of new songs that was coming together was, I've talked a lot about the importance of forgiveness and what the Bible has to say about it and everything like that. But there is a practical utility to, if there's still issues you're having with another person, it is okay to separate for a time. Just off the top of my head, Jesus talks about if someone sins against you, you go to them first, and if the person refuses to stop their behavior, then you come to them again with 2 or 3 witnesses. And if that continues, you bring them to an authority, in this case, the church. And if they still continue, then have nothing to do with them. And you can even forgive somebody without being connected to them, because at the end of the day, like it says in Proverbs, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it says the prudent person sees danger and avoids it. And that's the other side of, well, I wouldn't necessarily say the other side, but that is, well, if it is the other side, it's like more of an interpersonal relationship interaction cube rather than a coin. There's a lot of facets to how we interact with people and how we respond to certain situations. And that's one of the situations that it just felt like it was appropriate to write for this song.
Very good. And I know that my work, we just watched a video with how to deal with that kind of stuff, how people view you, and it's okay for them to not like something about you, but you have to be okay with that, and then try to open up and talk to them about that. And I think that's always relevant. And that's the song, especially your breakdowns and your samples, and it's just good, man. It's good stuff.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys very much. So let's get into some questions for you guys together. So how did you meet?
You want to start that?
Is this a too long of a question here, or we can go on to another one?
So how we first met.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I moved from Bowling Green, Kentucky to Murray, Kentucky, I needed to find a new church. The Lord pointed me to the church that we are at. And the first time that I saw him, I want to say it was either the first or second time that I attended our church, I saw him and it was like my heart left my body. It was just, whoa. But due to some circumstances and some other things, I didn't try to build a friendship or relationship with him because I didn't think I was going to be in the town that I lived in for very long. Well, how we eventually came to personally meet, the college ministry that I was a part of formed a group that was the more mature adults, or the adults that graduated college, and we were supposed to mentor some of the younger students. Well, he ended up being in that group and that's just kind of, we formed a really tight-knit friendship, and that's really where it started, was that little group.
I know that's kind of a weird question to ask for a podcast we're on, but I ask you because you're a part of the band when you perform, correct? And
Yeah.
some of the videos I've seen you in. So just how you guys are connected with music. I know there's some people that are husband and wife, that the husband or the wife does the music, and then the other one does like behind the scenes stuff more than anything. And the fact that you guys are both together seems like it's really cool. And the fact you have the cool playoff Fyrebride.
Mm-hmm.
I had to throw that in there. And music wise, I know you guys are together, like you love music. So do you connect with music outside of being in the band?
Yeah, we enjoy a lot of the same music, and that was something that kind of got my attention, really, because we live in the South. It's kind of rare to come by a metalhead. I mean, there's plenty to find when it comes to fans of pop, country, rap, even like rock that's a little more on the lighter side or runs the middle ground, but not too often that you run into a fellow metalhead or somebody who's into hard rock, the niche stuff. And most of the time, people can't even guess the type of music that I listen to just by looking at me. And it was as our friendship was forming within this young adult group that we were a part of, and yeah, she was able to identify me as somebody who was a rocker or a metalhead. And while we weren't quite familiar with the same bands necessarily, getting to connect over music, show her some bands that were like, hey, these bands are like really heavy and really talented, but they're also God-fearing Christians, and they write solid stuff that is fun to listen to, and it honors the Lord. And we have fun. Yeah, and outside of metal, even, because we do like stuff other than that. But outside of that, things like road trips are hilarious because it's just 2.5 hour long concerts featuring us.
Oh yes.
That's the way it should be.
And the playlist is diverse.
Yes.
No,
well,
I get it.
Whenever kind of following along with what you said, it was actually the first time that the young adult group came together. So this is the first time he came over with everyone else. And I got word that he was in a band, and I asked him about it. And he was like, so by looking at me, what type of music do you think I do? And I'm like, you're a rocker. You're either a rocker or a metalhead. And he was like, he was really taken away by that. I'm like, because I grew up listening to hard rock and even some old like hardcore rock. So it was easy for me to kind of like identify you.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And it's, when you're a metalhead, it just shows. And we're the nicest people. Everyone's like, oh, metalheads, they're so mean and evil.
No. WikiHow tells you like part of the ingredients is Satanism, and it's like,
right. Like, no, not always, So I noticed that you guys play video games. You stream a little bit on your YouTube. So what kind of games do you like to play together?
We like to do couch co-op as much as possible.
Yes.
Our relationship actually blossomed quite a bit over Borderlands.
Yes. So whenever within our group at the time, because I had a crush on him for about 2 years, just about, and I'm like, what can I do to make this guy like me? What can I do to build like that friendship, to build that connection with him? And I'm like, you play video games? He's like, well, not as much as what I used to or that I would like. And I was like, have you ever played Borderlands? He's like, I don't think you played it before me, or that you.
No.
Yeah, but So I was like, well, when you come over, are you interested in co-oping? Would you want to co-op? And so that was me sneaking like bonding time with him.
That's
And it worked.
very sneaky, but it worked.
It did.
Very good. So let's go. So Fyrebride. I'll start
Yes.
on the solo stuff. What inspired you to start your podcast?
So, me being the cookie nerd that I am, I love cooking. I love really encouraging others to cook. And so really besides him, talking to him about cooking, I would talk to my coworkers about food and cooking and my obsession with cookbooks. And of course, they're all like, well, you're a friend. I love you. I'll just listen to you. But they have like really no interest in it. Well, one day I was listening to Spotify and I'm like, I wonder if there is actually a cookbook or a cooking podcast community. And actually there was. And I just kind of fell down that rabbit hole of cooking podcasts. And I would love to do this. Like, it inspired me so much. And it was so I contacted one of my girlfriends, one of my best friends. I'm like, hey, I'm really thinking about starting a podcast, like a cooking podcast. Is this something that you would want to do with me? To be my co-host? And she said yes, and that is Madam Waffle. So or Mary Beth, but her nickname is Madam Waffle for the podcast.
Very good. So I'm gonna throw you a loop. I didn't send you this question. You talk about how you looked at all the different community of different podcasts. What is going to make your podcast different than all the other ones?
Oh, that is a good question. I don't know.
You make it different.
I make it different. Yeah,
Like,
I have a completely different personality.
Yeah, you're a personality all your own. A big like you're a big personality, and like you're also very friendly, and that's something where between your perspectives and your interests and everything like that, I think that already makes it something all its own.
Right. Because before I started my podcast group and my cooking group, I was part of another cookbook group as well. And so every time I would make a recipe, I'd share the book, and I was always giving my honest thoughts on it. And everyone's like, I love your posts. Like, you're so funny, you're honest, you're wholesome. I like it. So definitely I would really be more wholesome with my podcasts. There are some podcasts that I started listening to, but then they kind of steered into like a really ugly, more mean, crude direction. And I'm just like, you know what? I had to stop listening to some just because of, those particular things.
Do it this way. Don't do it this way because it's not right. And it's like, whoa, wait.
Or they use really harsh language. It's like, you know what? That's not my cup of tea.
The podcast, the entertainment, you don't want that in your entertainment. Or just tell me how to cook it. I don't want to hear all the extra garbage. I get that.
Right. So I feel that's how I would be bringing something different to my podcast.
Right on. And like on social media and all that, I see it, and everyone that knows you love your cookbooks. How many do you currently have, and what's your favorite ones?
Okay, so for the first part
of that, or questions for you, it's going to take a while. I can already tell.
Okay.
So to answer that first part of that question, I currently cannot answer it because I'm going to use that question in my podcast group.
Very smart.
For something fun.
That's fair.
So until maybe in a few weeks later, if you want to do another interview, then I'll go ahead and answer that. The only hint I will give is that I have less than 1,000.
You could open your own store. Just the pictures that I've seen, it's like, oh man. Like me with my shopping hauls for my collectible stuff. I'm like, gosh, couldn't imagine with books. All right, so let's get into music stuff. So,
well, she does have her favorite cookbooks to show you, though.
Yeah.
So
you do that. I
yes. So my favorites are old vintage ones. So with me, I brought.
Absolutely love that one.
This one is a 1961 Betty Crocker. Oh, the light's kind of blinding it.
I can see it pretty good on my end here. So.
Oh, love it. Then I have an old one. Which one is this? I lost my sticky note. But this one is a 1962 Better Homes and Gardens.
Man, that's rad.
But I do. So a couple different things. I do love the old vintage ones just because it's so interesting to see how mills have progressed since then. But my favorite one, as far as sentimental value, would be my late mother's Better Homes and Gardens cookbook.
The staple, you never need a recipe. That's a staple, right?
Yeah. So this right here is very special to me. And one more. Sorry.
Don't be sorry.
I really like the. Oh, no. So not too long ago, I got a really nice cookbook haul, and I like the old school do-it-yourself binders, but I really like the ones that are handwritten.
Yeah.
That have, I don't know, it's almost just like a love note and a recipe. I love it.
That is so rad. Where I work for Goodwill, and I work for the outlet store now. I'm a trainer, and we get these totes of old books, and we poured it just yesterday. I saw a bunch of old cooking books. So I was like, she would love these.
Yes.
I see a lot of old books that come through. It's like a lot of cookbooks. It's like the old church ones where they showed me, like they write them all in. It's like, man, those are cool. So, Fyrebride, what does the name mean? I mean, I know most people understand it, but say someone's watching, they don't know. Firebrand, how'd you come up with that?
So I already had the name in mind. Just as things were, a season of my life was ending towards the end of my years in college, and I was kind of in a limbo period afterwards because I didn't know exactly where to go. Opportunities to go and get a job within my field of study were dismal, and I didn't end up getting any positions or anything like that. So I ended up, I entertained the idea of doing music and stuff like that, and really like just pouring myself into it because I'd wanted to do that for a long time. And the word Firebrand was something I was already toying around with. It was a nice play onto my name and stuff like that. And I had, before the project started and I got it off the ground, I was praying and I was like, Lord, if this is something you really want me to like just throw myself on the gears to, and if this is something that you're calling me to and you're going to bless the progression of it and everything, I need confirmation on that. And the confirmation was that I ended up coming across a verse I was not aware in the Bible, which is Zechariah 3:2. The scene set is the high priest that year, Joshua. Zechariah sees a vision of Joshua standing before the Lord's court and Satan's accusing him. And Joshua's in filthy garments and stuff like that. And it's symbolically of the state of Israel and in sin and everything like that. And the Lord says to Satan, the Lord rebuke you, Satan. The Lord who has chosen Jerusalem rebukes you. Is this not a brand that I've plucked from the fire?
Wow.
Yeah. So that was something that not only it confirmed it to me, but it gave the word firebrand a whole new meaning whenever it came to what this project would represent. I always had a vision for it being in a God-fearing metal band. It was something that I had some semblance of it getting off the ground a handful of years previously, because I was in a group that is dormant right now called Placate the Masses, and we got off the ground somewhat. But being inspired by Circle of Dust, Cell Dweller, where he did a lot of stuff himself, and industrial was always something interesting to me. Grew up with a lot of that sound, even if I couldn't have characterized it industrial at the time when I was little and hearing it. and also knowing how accessible writing and recording and producing and everything like that was available, that was the time where this is where it was apparent to me that I need to make this vision a reality. And Firebrand would have been the name for it. And like I said, whenever the Lord showed me that verse, that was something that gave the name a whole new meaning. And yeah, it was something that was spelled conventionally Fire brand. I changed it to Fyre brand just for easier searchability, because I didn't check the name before I started this, and there are so many other artists out there that had the same idea that I had, going with Fire brand. Fyre just made it to where it was easier to search on places like Spotify and so forth.
Yeah, I noticed that too. When the first time I typed in the fire with the Y, it was like, oh, this is way easier. So
means that it works.
Yeah. So, like I was telling you on through Instagram, like branded Vogue show is kind of not a thing anymore. Me and a buddy have been wanting to sell stuff. We've been selling stuff online, but now on eBay. But now we're doing our own thing where we're wanting to do like pop culture, but like give the community having like a community where the people that are in, not just kids, but just people in general that are in that world, that they feel like they have nowhere to go, no one that loves them, kind of thing. We want to have an atmosphere. So it's not just about selling things. It's about creating a community of people. And so collecting stuff. So I collect like Ninja Turtles. I'm retro. I love the older, the better on that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I have some other stuff in my collection, but try to sell some of it, but I do it for the hobby because I love it. And what are some things that you guys collect that are not cookbooks?
Oh, man. Oh.
I have a CD collection that I've been steadily growing over the years. I had a CD collection previously. I ended up selling all of it because I needed to pay some bills a good handful of years back, and I was struggling pretty bad. Now I've been rebuilding it, and I like getting, the artists that I have inspired me and I grew up on and stuff like that. But I also really like getting CDs from independent artists and supporting, my fellow independent artists who are trying to make it just as much as I am. And so, labels like, well, Rottweiler's no longer a thing anymore, but I would get some stuff from there, Fixed, and sometimes going to a place called McKay's over in Nashville. That's a fun place to find CDs. You'll even find something that like an obscure compilation album or something like that. Like I've got one, it's called Sweet Family Music, and it's a compilation album of covers of Striper songs, but it's done by incredibly niche artists like Clank.
When I was a radio DJ in Oklahoma City, they had been around since the early mid '80s, so they had those in their library. I got to go through them. I'm like, oh, they're so cool to look at. And you got that? That's cool. I don't have it, but
yeah, it's like Clank, Argyle Park, Alika, like all these like really niche artists that are doing covers of Striper songs and reimagining them in ways that I wouldn't have I certainly wouldn't have thought of. It's finds like that are fun to populate a CD collection with. And I have a small, but it's growing, a tape collection.
Yeah, my tape collection's super small. Like looking up, I have like maybe 20, but they're all like anything from Striper to Old Audio A to Carmen, because Carmen's like was the first Christian artist I ever heard in my entire life.
Right.
Oklahoma, it's hard not to. So some Petra, White Cross, so I collect that stuff too. So that's kind of cool that we can do that on the fly too.
Do you have a deck or like a Walkman type device to listen to them on?
No, I'm afraid to listen to them, to be honest. Like a VCR the one time. I mean, tapes don't eat as much, but that one time I have a tape player, but I just found out recently it doesn't work anymore. So I got Like some of them I'll listen to, but I might have to start buying double so I can do that.
Oh, I see. See, I've only got about 10 tapes or so that are not my own, but I have a Sanyo, a Walkman type device. I say type because Sony has the patent on word Walkman, but it was something that when Sony had a lot of success with the portable stereo, it would have been ludicrous to not get into that market. And I'll take old modern tapes or whatever. I've got a couple recorded on a deck that I have over here, and I'll pop them in whenever I'm taking a walk or something like that. I have a CD and a cassette dual deck where you can play a CD and you can record the CD to the tape that you have. Now I obviously can't go the other way, but you have the choice to do one or the other, and that helps when you're duplicating your own tapes to sell.
Right. Very good. So last thing we'll talk about, I heard that there's a new album in the works.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about that as much as you can without spoiling anything, I guess.
Well, something that people would already be aware of is that a lot of what went into the mindset that went into a lot of writing for this album, or how it ended up taking shape, is definitely that this is in many ways a sequel to Beat the Machine, but it's the other side of the coin. Beat the Machine, lyrically, it had a theme that was more of like guarding your heart above all else and finding how to. You're awesome.
Yes.
Well, like Beat the Machine was very introspective and kind of on the defense, whereas this new album called Vengeance Is Mine is going to be more on the offensive, and it's more external focused. There's going to be songs about, we've heard Drag Me Down, which is a lot about, stepping away from people who are toxic, for lack of a better word. I have another song that is like a total thrasher that is about the hard conversation to have about if someone's in perpetual sin, you got to like separate them from the body, as it's talked about in 1 Corinthians 5. I've got a song called Plunder Hell that's about evangelism. I've got songs that are a lot about going out and engaging the world, but in a way that the Bible commands us, and all that wonderful stuff. And so, and Vengeance Is Mine, the name carries a lot of the, I guess you could say, the sonic weight that all of the songs carry, because this is an album that is heavier than Beat the Machine, although it still retains its dynamics and a lot of the signature sound that people have come to expect from Fyrebride.
Yeah, please don't change that.
No, absolutely not. But it's interesting to trying to find ways to keep things fresh. There's that voice there that everybody knows about, and it's kind of like how Demon Hunters evolved over the years, going from a band that was like metalcore by the book, and now they're something that you could really just categorize them as general metal, because they have evolved so much and they pull so many different influences. And I kind of look to keep things fresh and keep things have each album have its own personality while still retaining that sound. And how it falls to Vengeance Is Mine is that it's going to be a really heavy record.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing that. And when is that album going to drop?
The album's going to come out on September 30th. And for those who are interested, pre-orders are available today. There will be a cutoff date for pre-orders, which will be August 18th. That way, whatever we put together, we can get the orders together and ship them out in hopes that they'll arrive on release date. Once it's out of our hands, things can go wrong with shipping or whatever like that. But things like The deluxe edition, that's going to be a pre-order exclusive, where once that cutoff date is reached, we're not going to print anymore. That way, it just takes care of, it cuts down on costs and everything like that, and we don't have a lot of stuff just sitting in the closet waiting to be sold.
Of course.
Yeah, we don't want to have to shove everything.
Order that album at, and where can people find your music?
Okay, so Fyrebride is able to be found on all digital platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, and so forth. If you want to get merch or pre-orders for the upcoming album or any of my back catalog, you can go to my new website, firebrand.site, FYREBRAND.SITE.
Very good. And where is your podcast found, Fyrebride?
So it is on Facebook, and it is also on, what is it? Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
On Spotify. It is Tableside, so TABLESIDE with, Tableside with Fyrebride, with FYREBRIDE.
Very good. Anything else you'd like to say before we're done for the day?
I had an idea of a thought, just like I had a thought of a question for you, just because I think it would be fun for the conversation.
All right.
All right. So, knowing you're a big Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan, what would be your favorite adaptation of the Turtles and your least favorite adaptation of the Turtles?
Adaptation as in like which time, like different versions of them that's come out? Is that what you're asking?
Let's do like either a movie or show, just to keep things simple.
My favorite is the 1990s motion picture. That's my favorite out of every nostalgia reason. My mom took me to see it when Raphael said "damn" 3 times. It scarred me. I was like, "Are you?" I didn't know it was a comic book originally and how gritty and dark it was. I had no idea. I didn't read comics. I just knew the cartoon. So my least favorite is The Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's my absolutely least favorite.
Mm.
And I respect it because there's a new generation of people watching it. So I respect it for that. But I just don't like it for all the stuff they did to it. They made Raphael the leader, which is the comic original. They did have Raphael as leader. So that was kind of cool. Everything else, I just don't like. But thank you for that question.
Yeah, I just figured that it'd be fun for the conversation.
I absolutely love it. Well, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for taking time out of your day, and looking forward to do it again sometime.
Yes.
That would be wonderful. And thank you so much for having us.
You're welcome.